Hi everybody, Rosanna here, Rosie Glow, how are you doing? I wanted to make a video specifically for fear, and for those of you who are wanting to deal with fear. Whatever's going on in the collective now is triggering fear, we know that. So this is just an opportunity to share with those of you who are kind of wanting to inquire a bit more. You're scared. You're like, what do I do with this information? How do I know what's real? How do I know what's not real? How do I decipher truth from fiction? This is what I wanted to do, and to start with this idea that it's okay to let go of fear because grace is here. And there is a mudra specifically for that called a biomudra, and it's literally this, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go on. For those of you who don't know who I am Rosanna. I'm a multidimensional success coach, and I teach people to become aware of their programming, to see where they are triggered, what is going on in their world, to then adjust that programming to create the kind of life experience that they actually want to have. And this is really about learning to move from survival thinking into thriving thinking, and it's a whole energetic rewiring that once you do it, it really allows you to start to face fear head on and not to allow it to control you, to manipulate you, to confine you to a state where you feel powerless. And that is my joy. This is what I really want to share with everybody. So this whole thing is about turning fear around. So bear with me. Now, what is fear really? The way that fear manifests in our body is a stress response, and it is seen as a sign of weakness, okay? So ultimately, what happens is we will project what we cannot accept. Anything that's too difficult for us to be able to deal with, we will project it onto others. And this is why I'm inviting you to just take a little step back from everything that's going on in the world and see that there is a lot of projection going on at the moment. There is a lot of conflict. If we look at the media, the mainstream media, it is doing everything it can to convince us, welcome those of you who are joining me, that we're in a really, really terrible state. We've got this awful pandemic and loads of people are dying. And yet there are so many skeptics. There are so many people speaking out and saying, hold on a minute, the way these figures are being utilised isn't quite right. They're being manipulated. Why are we all looking towards having a specific vaccine as the silver bullet cure to everything, when actually there are so many other things at play here? And I'm not going to go into the details of that today, because what I want to invite you to see is that we are having a global fear detox, and this fear is systemic fear. It's been running through us from one generation after another, and this is why we are in the most exciting time of our lives, the potential to shift the programming that has been passed from one generation to another for thousands of years. And instead of to pass the programming of survival on, we start to pass the programming of thriving on. Hey Jackie, but this takes some time, and actually I'm so glad Jackie's on this live stream as well, because it's about understanding that when you do start to awaken, it's really scary, okay? It's like, you know that whatever you've been taught to believe isn't right, but you don't yet know how to trust yourself to be able to navigate through all the misinformation and all of the half-truths to actually find the essence of truth, which is to be able to live in a human body with soul consciousness, with an awareness of yourself beyond your conditioning. And this is what we're talking about. This is why I just want to say this is what I do. It's what I teach people to do. Whether it's through the yoga that I teach online, which is always live and online, whether it's through my group coaching or my one-to-one coaching work, I teach people how to be able to take themselves from a place where they feel paralysed by what's going on and unable to actually do anything constructive, to seeing that their vibration is the most powerful thing they can shift. And when they do that, it shifts their perception of the world around them. And as a result, it also shifts our experience of the world, and we change the world through changing our vibration. So I hope I've got your attention, and that's exciting enough. Now, the reason I started with this mudra, let go of fear, no need, grace is here. I do want to honour Sienna Sherman, because I think that was originally hers, so it's no need to fear, grace is here. She's a wonderful, wonderful Anusara yoga teacher, or was. As a mudra, this is something you can use. If you think about it, it's like saying no, right? So this is a practical way of going, no, I am not conceding to this. I am not acquiescing to this. I am not going to stand for this. And that's the starting point, is to be able to recognise that a boundary of yours is being violated, and you push against it and you say no. Now, this is what others would call fighting. For me, I have an issue with the word fighting, because it just creates more conflict. What I'm doing is I'm saying this is not my truth. So I am meeting whatever force is coming towards me with another force. And this force is the power of love. It's incredibly protective. It's incredibly supportive. It creates miracles. But if I don't believe in the power of that love, then the fear that's coming towards me has way more power over me, and it infiltrates my nervous system, it infiltrates my energy field, comes into my nervous system, and as a result of that, it then starts to wreak havoc with me. My whole being goes into a state of fight or flight, and then the way I perceive the world is in an emergency state of threat, and I cannot think clearly, I cannot rationalise, I cannot step back from what seems like true and impending danger and make a decision that could really be for the highest good. And this is the state of play in the world today, okay? Whether there is an agenda or not, which the more you look deeply into this, the harder it is to deny there is some form of agenda. Whatever the truth is about the virus, and whether it was made in a lab or it's naturally occurring, doesn't really matter. It's what we do with where we are right now that is really important. We can trace the root of truth another time. The key is, what do we do so we don't end up terrified automatrons just giving our power away left, right and centre, and we start to access that deep inner truth within us, because this is what is needed. So in its simplest way, this mudra, when you channel grace through you, which is a frequency, you just bring love through your body and you allow it to move down into your earth chakra, around the planet, into her heart and back up through you. Simply imagine you're bathing with light. For me it's a soft pink light, but you bathe yourself with this light all the way down around the planet into the heart of the planet and then back up through you. Why? Because you become an acupuncture needle of love light. Then you allow the purest vibrations of love and light to move through you. So you're immediately shifting your vibration, which is going to help you to shift your perception. These are like in the moment tools. They're symptom relief, but they also allow you to start accessing your soul consciousness wherever you're at on your journey right now, which is really important, because if we are going to move beyond the duality bit and fighting about who's right and who's wrong, we're going to have to activate compassion, courage, discernment, forgiveness, and the willingness to understand that those who are resisting us right now, those who don't want to believe the fact that we're being lied to, because we are, we're being lied to in the mainstream. We have been for a very, 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 very long time. It's nothing new, but to accept we're being lied to is very, very scary for people, because they don't know what to do with that as a truth. They don't know what to do as an alternative. Well, if the governments are lying, if the medical system is lying, if it's all based on half-truths, the scientific community, then what do I do with this? How can I trust myself? And this is the deprogramming from the collective that's essential, so we can then plug back into our autonomy, our connection to source, and to be able to live from a higher perspective, which is the invitation. Welcome everyone who's here. Any questions, let me know. So what do we do with that? Well, this mudra opens that channel, because you allow yourself to bring it through you. You can just open the gateway. I am all that is. I am the one self I am that I am. I am divine grace, I am divine grace, I am divine grace, and it will flow through you. It will activate your earth chakra, which is how you co-create consciously in your life, and it will then move that energy around the planet to activate the crystalline grid, so your connection to all of your soul family, all of the beings here that are also working to help liberate this planet and humanity from this suffering that is basically the poison that we've all bought into, which is that we are powerless and there is not enough, because there's plenty, there's an infinite source of everything we could possibly need. Once you've connected to the grid, you can take the energy into the centre of the earth and you activate the heart of the new earth, the ascending paradigm, not the descending paradigm. We've got to choose our reality. This is how we move out of duality. We choose which side we're on. Are we on the side of love or the side of fear? And then we get everything else to align with that, because that's how powerful we are, right? This is the invitation. This is how you turn fear around, is you remember your power. So in this service, in this moving it around, moving it back up through your body and beaming it out, especially to anyone that you feel in some way antagonistic towards. So whether it's the Prime Minister, whether it's Gates, whether it's your mother-in-law, it doesn't matter, but just send that energy to them. And it's like, I am gonna surround this with love. I am going to bring love to this, and I'm going to allow love to triumph. That doesn't mean you're not necessarily going to fight, you're not necessarily going to resist, you're not necessarily going to have to stand up for what you believe in, but it means you're coming with love, and I'll come back to that in a bit. So if I actually borrow from Joe Dispenza a bit, he's phenomenal as a teacher for explaining the difference between what's already manifested in life, which are the particles of your consciousness in physical form, your conditioning, and the waves, which are basically the possibilities, the infinite possibilities all around you. And when you shift your focus to what's possible rather than what is, that's what you start to energize. And this really ties in with what Bruce Lipton talks about in the imaginal cells. If you've not looked at his video yet, check it out on YouTube. Imaginal cells, Bruce Lipton. And it gives you the example of the butterfly that has to start as a caterpillar, goes into a chrysalis, dissolves basically, and how is it going to become a butterfly? There are imaginal cells. It's our imagination, our fourth dimensional consciousness that can then create the butterfly out of what was the caterpillar. And this is where we are right now, okay? We have this job to do. And the way that we do it is we have to unplug from fear. Now, I'm going to remind you, I run a course called Fearless, Empowered and Free to Be Me, because I'm going to tell you how what you need to do. But the how to do it is something that you have got to go through in a process, whether it's with me or another teacher. The how is something that you need to be led through. Digital programs don't work because you've got no one to work with to say, what's going on here? I've got a blind spot, and being able to be supported with it. So you have to work with a fear expert, and fear experts are people who've been through a tremendous amount of fear themselves, and have learned to overcome it, and their life is their example, right? So back to what we're doing. We're remembering the fact that we shift our vibration, and through shifting our vibration, the world around us changes. But we need to know step by step how to build a new reality, how to create the caterpillar life from the old reality, which is the butterfly. Sorry, how to build the butterfly life from the old caterpillar life. And that requires the imagination. It requires us to step out of what we know into what we don't know, to open to the field of possibility, and to be led by our hearts and guided towards what we most desire to experience. So that leads us back to, what do we want in this world? So on a very simple, practical level, before I go into other things that we can do, because this is what I want to do, is say this is how you turn fear around right now, and it's also how you do it longer term, because there's symptoms and causes. We can deal with the symptoms. The causes take a little bit longer, right? And this is this systemic fear conditioning that has passed from one generation to the next, that is basically what, well, channels us to struggle, to expect to struggle, to believe there is not enough, and to be in this struggle paradigm rather than love paradigm and a thrive paradigm. So you're just constantly motivated by fear. So there's quite a lot of hostility out there, because at the moment we are in this process of bringing all darkness to light. We are in the apocalypse. There's a lot going on. You can call it a shitstorm, you can call it whatever you like, but all of the stuff that's been suppressed, that all of the wounded masculine has been trying to suppress because it doesn't know what to deal with, doesn't feel powerful dealing with this stuff, it's too scary, so you push it down. That's all coming up at the moment. And the wounded masculine and the wounded feminine need to heal. It's not one or the other, right? So this is all coming up to the surface at the moment. So the way that we deal with it in our day-to-day life, say you walk into a shop and you're not wearing a mask and someone gives you a hard time or whatever, the important thing with the hostility element is to meet it with compassion. People are fearful. They are fearful because they don't know what to believe, and they do believe the lie. It's either they believe the lie or they don't know what to believe. So it's easier to deny what they don't know how to deal with, which is what we resist, we project, right? We project what we cannot accept. Or they're in a state of awakening where they're ready to start talking, they're ready to start opening their minds to other possibilities. But it's still really scary when you know this is wrong, but you don't know what the answer is yet. That's a scary place for people. That's why hostility must be met with compassion. And when it comes to fear, fear must be met with courage. Remember, fear is a weakness. Fear is simply your body's response saying, I don't know what to do, I feel like this has more power than me. No, you have more power than it if you choose to have. Hence this mudra, right? No, I am not going to meet you in this fear place. I'm coming up. I am stronger than you. I am love and you are fear. And fear is false evidence, false expectation, false emotion appearing real. And there's a lot of false data out there as well. Thirdly, lack. How do we meet lack at the moment? We meet lack with generosity. We know we're going through a massive shift at the moment. We know there's going to be an economic downfall as a result of this. We know that a lot of people are losing their jobs and they're struggling, especially people who are willing to be courageous and to stand up and to say, no, I'm not going to acquiesce with this. I am not going to comply with what I know is not a truth. I don't know what the truth is yet, but I know this isn't the truth. I trust my instincts. And as a result of that, we do need to pull together. This generosity is how we meet lack. okay? We remember there's plenty for everyone. Remember that what goes around comes around. We ask for help. We support each other. We're willing to support each other. There's a wonderful movement in the UK called Save Our Rights UK, and there are other wonderful movements everywhere, but people are willing to cover each other's legal fees for speaking up, having crowdfunders, like basically pooling together in community, which is what we're supposed to be doing in times of crisis, rather than avoiding each other because we're terrified we're going to kill each other, okay? It's really important to remember that where we are today and where we were 6 months ago is very different. We have a hell of a lot more information now than we did 6 months ago, and if you actually look and you start to look at lockdown skeptics, you start to look at We Are the Mainstream Media, you start to look at Save Our Rights. I've got a few other things here I can recommend to you. Talk radio, you're going to get a hell of a lot more truth coming through and skeptics speaking up than you're going to find on the BBC. And I do recommend at this point, anyone who is still looking to the BBC for their information, stop. It is biased. It is not investigative journalism anymore. It is not speaking the truth. It is completely in cahoots with the government. And if you think about it, in this country, you have to buy a TV licence. And that is what gives you access to the BBC. So in its own way, it is a forced broadcast. This is what we want you to subscribe to. Hell no, you're lying. And you only have to look further down my feed on Facebook to see where I'm calling these lies out and saying this is not real facts, this is not real data. The way this is put forward is to manipulate and to control, as all the other newspapers and as we are seeing in the mainstream media in general is happening, okay? And this is in cahoots with the government, it's in cahoots with SAGE, it's all come out already that this was a fear pandemic in the first place. It was intended to get people so fearful that they would not be complacent and that they would actually listen to what they were told and they would act on it because they were too scared not to. Now the repercussions of this for the generations that are babies, that are children at the moment, those who are carrying babies at the moment, is akin to the First and the Second World War in terms of the level of trauma that I see being passed down through the cellular memory. And this is why we need a reset, but not a reset as we're being told. This reset is a love reset. It's not more disconnect from each other. Yes, we disconnect from fear, but we reconnect with love, okay? So, the process, and again, I've spoke about Joe Dispenza because he's absolutely awesome. I've spoke about Bruce Lipton, he's absolutely awesome. They'll tell you the what to do, but the how to do it, as I said, is about being consistent with someone, working with someone to discover your blind spots, because on your own, you just go round and round in circles. I did that for 15 years before I decided to start taking counsel from those who had what I wanted in the last 6 years, and honestly, I highly recommend it. So let me say, the process that we're in, we're exposing the darkness and the fraud for what it is right now. That's what's happening. This is why governments are being held accountable. They're being taken to court. You can check out Rainer Fulmich's awesome video, Crimes Against Humanity. You can check out acu.org, Dr. Heiko Schoening, and also the book Corona False Alarm. There is so much out there. Lockdown Skeptics you can check out. You can check out Talk Radio, as I said. These are important, like lots of information that is factual being put out there, and it's referenced, and this is the key, because then you can see who are the people they keep bringing out on the BBC to speak, who are the same people that speak out as the experts, who's paying them, who's in cahoots with Imperial College, who's in cahoots with Johns Hopkins University in America. When you start to look and you see the connections, you're like, oh, I get it. And then who's behind all of this? Well, let's just say it rhymes with mate, and it's really, really hard to accept that these supposedly good beings have actually got a really unpleasant agenda, and I wouldn't want to believe it either. It's just in the field of work that I've been in all these years, I've come to see that the way things are portrayed and the way they are is not the same thing, and actually there are consequences to any of these apparent sustainable measures that are being put forward, particularly in relation to Agenda 30 and Agenda 21, and those consequences I'm happy to talk about, and we'll talk about a couple of examples on Friday on my Rosie Glow YouTube channel, 12:30 p.m. BST. That's this Friday in preparation for the full moon next week. Back to this whole process. So exposing, this is key thing now, and I want to thank Monika Hallisberg, who's one of the doctors, she's one of the health experts that was speaking from Sweden with the ACU doctors, and they were all marching in Berlin. So she said, expose the darkness and fraud. We really, really need to know this. Why do we resist this? We project what is too hard to accept. So you have to expose the darkness before you can actually do a clean-up job. Most people are resisting exposing the darkness, and the reason they're doing that is because they're too scared to face the fact that what we've been told is a lie. That then what confidence can you have in an external authority if you've been lied to on such a systemic level? Like, think about it. It's big. Of course people want to deny it. We all want to deny trauma until we're in so much pain that we absolutely have to deal with it. In this case, it would be our own extinction that we're dealing with, so we need to deal with it ahead of time. Okay, so I've put here about there's a level of systemic corruption in all of our institutions of governance. That's why this is so big and there is so much resistance. That's why there is so much compliance to try and shut down what's coming out at the moment and discrediting any doctor or scientist that's speaking out against the current narrative. And it's important you know that, because you know in your heart it's wrong. You know in your heart what you're seeing in schools, what you're hearing we have to do in order to protect ourselves. You know it's wrong. But then someone just puts this story in front of you and it seems to make sense, and you don't want to be seen to be a bad citizen and to fall out of favour with your friends and your family, so you just get on with doing what everyone else is doing. No. It's really important to cultivate the courage to look deeper and to speak up, because that's how we change things. And most women I know, most mothers, they won't do it for themselves, but they will do it for their children. So I'm asking all of you to do this for your children, whether you have any or not, whether you're a woman or a man. It's the generations ahead that you are standing up for now. You might say, well, it doesn't really bother me. I don't really go out much anyway. It's no big deal. Well, it is a big deal, because the way our planet is going to be moving forward is entirely dependent on what our generation does, and it does fall on our shoulders. And all we have to do is accept that, and accept we each have a role to play, and then that role will be given to us, okay? So you don't have to save the whole world. You've got one little thing to do, and by the way, it'll be something that brings you tremendous joy, because this is another way that we circuit break. So the second thing that's really important is we really need to unite together, okay? Together we are stronger, we share facts. That's why I'm making these videos. I'm making them for those of you who are aware that something's off. Maybe you're open to some new ideas. Maybe you're not really sure where it all connects and how to even put together the idea that this is satanic work going on and that QAnon is right and all the other things that you hear about, especially with America and what's going on here in the UK. It doesn't matter. Just be open to inquiry, and people will help you piece the picture together. My job is to do it from a perspective of early influences, how our conception, time in the womb, first 7 years of life, and our birth affects us. And that I can talk about till the Kai's come home, because that's what I know, that's what I'm an expert in, this is what I've spent 20 years investigating and researching. And yes, I do know a lot about vaccines as a result of that as well, and that's why I'm happy to speak out, and that's why I talk about the microbiome, and that's why I know what is being put forward is not correct. There is an answer. This is one potential, but it's not the best potential. Just like anything you get from a pharmaceutical company, there are 100 listed different, well, I can't say 100, I'm being a bit facetious there, but there will always be side effects listed, and some of them are unknown. We want to start looking for things that don't have the side effects, okay? And that's the important way to look at things long term, is we can find a way to exist in harmony with nature rather than fight nature, and that's really important to take on board. The third thing that we do once we have united is we act. But we act, and this is really important, because otherwise you're just acting from pain. You are acting from fear, and then you are creating more of a divide, not healing the situation. So we've got to be aware that we're either part of the problem or we're part of the solution. Whilst we're looking through eyes of fear, we're part of the problem. So the way that we do things is we evolve into conscious action. I've written here, we act from a unified and centered space. We allow ourselves to move from the head into the heart and to take that inspired action that is in alignment with our soul truth, which is why I always say, always intend what you want, but surrender it to the highest good of all and the win-win-win in everything. Because even these brains of ours, these perceptions of ours, however wide they are, they're still limited. We need to remember that we've got to download divine mind and consider what's the very best for everybody on this planet. Not what seems like the most, reasonable solution now that we're all in a state of fear, but what's for the very best of everybody. Is it really a track and trace system? Is it really digital passports? Is it really, having to conceive through IVF? Is it really having to birth with instruments? Is it really having to give babies formula milk because we can't breastfeed ourselves? Is that really our evolution? That we move away from our physiological functioning instead of actually learning more how to work with it? Like, there's so many things I could talk about with this, but the main thing is that when you get to this acting from a unified field, it's about being able to then get the support that you need. And for me, that means it is really important to recognise that for you to not be in a constant state of fight and flight and be in a constant state of fear, being manipulated and controlled by outside influences, you've got to clear your conditioning. Okay, you've got to be able to go through a process of detoxing emotionally, psychologically, and physically, and even spiritually from the early influences that keep you stuck, the early influences that you experience from your time in the womb, maybe even from your conception, through to your birth and the first 7 years of life. And any time a major event has occurred in your life that has left a scar, left a mark, you didn't know how to deal with it, all of these things need to be cleared, detoxed, and then upgraded. So you detox your conditioning. We all have 6 main areas: things to do with the masculine, things to do with the feminine, anything to do with fear, anything to do with pain, anything to do with internal projections, guilt, blame, shame, and of course lack as well. So these 6 areas, we all have stuff going on, and that's why the way I work with people is systemically to clear all of those areas first, because of the collective soup of subconscious patterning. But also, once we've done all of that, that's when we start looking at what are the deeper workings for you that you need to go into and fine-tune and self-master, because all of us have slightly different programming too, right? When you don't know what you want, you do... How do I put this? Many of us know we don't want what we currently have, but we don't know what we do want. So we haven't activated that imagination to be able to know what we do want. We only know what we don't want. The good thing about that is you can turn that around and start to discover what you do want. You've got to decalcify the pineal gland though. You've got to decalcify your whole system of intuition. And this is the thing, is most of our modern methods, they don't help us to be more intuitive. They actually cut us off from our intuition. Whether that's your normal toothpaste, whether that's taking a pharmaceutical drug, whether it's taking a recreational drug, whether it is drinking alcohol, refined sugar, whatever your thing is, and we all have something, right? All of these things, they dumb us down. And again, there are links to birth. I could go on and on about this, but the point is, early influences play out again and again and again. So we've got to clear the decks. We do that with compassion and forgiveness. We learn that it doesn't matter who put the mess there in the end. You just want to clear the mess up and then decide what you want in that room, that space that is your being. And once you've cleared this inner place and rewired your circuitry so you're no longer in this fight, flight, triggered state all the time, that's when your soul purpose, that's when your clear message comes through about what you're here to do. And honestly, mine has evolved for years from one thing into another, because I've mastered different areas to come to a point today that it feels like I can put it all together, hopefully pretty eloquently, and help you understand things a bit better as well. But the point with this is, it is a system to follow, to move from being a programmed human to a divine human, and to realize you are a co-creator of your reality. But learning how to co-create your reality consciously, that takes some self-mastery. And, you know, we have to move through creating things we don't want to learn how to create things we do want, and how to be able to course correct when we go off center. So whether it's love, money, vibrant health, whether it's a new career, whatever it is that you want, let's start with this idea first of all, that we create from a place of love, thriving, rather than from a place of fear. I must do this because this will happen, right? So this is the first step, this bridge that I'm talking about. So for us to act in a unified way and to hit our mark, right, to as a collective shift what's going on this planet today, so that we have got a planet full of healthy people, truly vibrant, healthy, free thinkers, autonomous beings that are transparent, accountable, care about the environment, care about each other, care about themselves. That's the world I want to create. That's what I'm inviting all of you who are like, sorry for swearing, but fuck this shit, what is going on? Like, this is insane. From there to, okay, this is what we want to create instead. And there is a journey. So 3D is the world of fear. 4D is the awakening of your imagination, your connection to your soul consciousness that allows you to start to download your soul consciousness into your life. And then 5D is true mastership of you co-creating your reality and being able to do that without needing the help of someone, an expert or a coach or whatever, but just being able to be the teacher yourself. So, you know, I hope this has helped, because I feel it's important for people to know there is a pathway to follow, right? You can do it. And like, whatever your budget is, remember I've got a prosperity practice on my website, the Star Salutation Prosperity Practice. It works for anyone, whether you've ever worked with me before or not. Like, it's brilliant for clearing your blocks around having more in your life, whether it's more money, more love, more happiness, more whatever. But it's also how you get from a place of, oh, I can't afford to do this, I would like to, but it's out of my reach, to I'm gonna find a way to afford this because this is important to me. So you've got Star Salutation Practice, you've got Breakthrough Call, which you pay for, then you've got group coaching or one-to-one coaching. In between all of that is yoga. If you want to just have a taste of the yoga for like 40 quid a month, you know, like you can join in and start to get a sense of what I'm talking about every week, twice a week. And what you're doing is you're starting to awaken your light body through the multidimensional yoga that I teach. And that starts to download these messages that I'm talking about with you now into your cellular memory. So it starts to become more and more accessible, easier and easier to imagine that actually you can take this leap from programmed to conscious divine human. And that is the invitation, because I need everyone to start waking up now. Like in the world where we're going to change things, whether you're working in a pharmaceutical company, whether you're working in a hospital, whether you're a doctor yourself, a nurse yourself, a teacher yourself, a spiritual teacher yourself, whether you're working in a gym, wherever you are, in government, local politics, we need to fire everything up now, realise that the way we're going is not the way that we want to go, and change course. And lots of people are helping that to happen, right? Let's just remember we're all in our jobs for a reason. We're all in the world we're in for a reason, but we do need to have the courage to change things from the inside. And it's very difficult to do that whilst you're completely riddled with fear. When you lift yourself out of fear, you start to see the way through and you develop a courage that actually protects you. So I consciously every day, and I'm just going to leave it on this, intend that I am invisible to anyone of malevolent intent, anyone that could want to give me grief and make my life challenging, but I'm highly visible to those who are ready to receive this message and are ready to want to take themselves to the next step. So I'm just going to trust that all of you who are watching this are those highly visible folk. Remember, please, to get in touch if you would like to do more. The free stuff I do with these videos, I do 2 co-creation meditations that are world service meditations on YouTube twice a month on a Friday, 12:30. I do other live streams on YouTube as well about specific themes. There'll be one this Friday about how the maternity services, how our time in the womb affects us and what we can actually do about that and why we need to change things around. Thank you. And, you know, that's there for you, okay, as is the Star Salutation Prosperity Practice. So wherever you are, just show up. Join Save Our Rights UK. Stop dealing with blinking BBC. Get onto Talk Radio. Look up Lockdown Skeptics, and also We Are the Mainstream Media on Instagram. Just get involved. You know, you are so much more powerful than you think you are. Hello everybody who's here. It's really good to see you. So I hope you found this useful. If you did, please do pass this on to others. Like, this is how we move out of the judgment in the playground of, oh, she's a bit weird or he's a bit weird and they've got funky ideas, to, wow, I thought that was all just way too weird to comprehend, but now I can see how it all relates. Okay, now I know why I'm in this job. Okay, now I know why I'm doing this. Okay, now I know the one thing I can do to change things. I feel good. I feel like I've got purpose. But you've got to get through all of the shittiness first, and the shittiness is the conditioning which we've got to clear. So, never fear. Grace is here. Rosy Glow is another transmutation of grace. So if you'd like to join me, head on over to Rosy Glow, sign up to the mailing list through the Star Salutation Practice, tick yes to everything so I can let you know about everything. Get on YouTube, subscribe, get on social media, say hello. You can also join me on Rosanna Kalia Betsos. You can friend me. It's good to send me a message, let me know that you've seen this video, then I know you're a friend. And just come and join me. Yoga, group coaching, Fearless is ongoing. You can join anytime you like, and I'd love to have you on board. And my one-to-one coaching I offer as a 4-month program or a year-long program. So I'm there now to work with the decision makers, the policy changers, the leaders that really want to lead from love and not from fear. So that's my shout out. I love you all so much. Take care. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.